Well, that was terrible. Let's talk about it. How you doing, everybody? I'm Ken Bykoff, and welcome to the Peegs Postgame Live. Indiana runs into a historic defeat at Simon Scott Assembly Hall, a 94 to 69 loss to Illinois in a game that this is the highest amount of points scored by an opponent in regulation in Simon Scott Assembly Hall history. A game that was it was difficult to watch, really, really difficult to watch because it was just a mess. It was a mess. This is a team that gave up 60 points in the first half alone. Uh, had a scuffle, a fight that led to somebody, Omer Balo, getting ejected. And after the game, you're going to hear Mike Woodson was asked, what's he going to do about it? And his answer was, well, there's not much I can do about it. And he hopes that Balo is going to be available against Ohio State. You'll get to hear Woodson and uh, that audio in just a bit. But the number 812-393-2600 is the number. We already have a couple of callers on. We might have one of our fellow guys from Peegs.com join me here in a little bit. But it was as bad a game as I have covered in my 20 years of covering Indiana basketball on the beat year after year. And this was as bad as it has been. This was a crowd that got very frustrated, very angry early on, lots of booing, chanting to fire Mike Woodson. And I can't remember there being a chant to fire a head coach, or just the strength of some of the booing of the players is something that we've seen along the way as well. But we'll see what exactly how they bounce back. They didn't bounce back well after the 25 point loss to Iowa last time out. Now, of course, it just got worse. And then they have to go on the road for the next couple of games. 812-393-2600 is the number. I'm going to get to my first caller. Caller, can I have your name, where you're from, and what you got?
Man, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How can I help you?
I'm about as upset as I've ever been because of IU basketball. Now I want to know, why is nobody asking Mike Woodson to resign today?
Do you think he would answer he would?
Why do you think no one is asking Mike Woodson to resign today?
From the administration or from the media? Because if it's the media, he's not going to do that. I understand the frustration, and I absolutely feel you. I feel you, because this was an embarrassing loss, to say the least. No question.
I agree. And I realize they're not going to do it. I know he's not going to do it, but surely someone in the press has the fortitude. I would say something worse, but we're on the radio. Um,
Internet, you could say I have the balls to do it. That's okay.
yeah, they do not have the ball. Why doesn't somebody in the media have the balls to say, "What are you doing, man? Quit. You're not good."
I think that,
I would say that.
well, that's the thing, is I think that it comes down to you if you ask a question, you already know what the answer is going to be. Obviously, he's not going to be like, you know what, you're right. I think I will. That's not how it works. I hear the frustration, and I understand you wanting somebody to ask that question, if for no other reason, just to see what he has to say. But his thing was that he was, and you'll hear it in just a little bit. He's embarrassed, and they got to get back together. And that was an Indiana basketball, and all that. We've heard that a ton already. So this isn't going to do anything to win him any kind of favor in any way, shape, or form. No question. This is as rough a crowd as I've seen here at Assembly Hall, again, in my 20 years of doing this. And I know that previous to that, you might have had some groups that were upset with Mike Davis in those years. But Davis had also been to a Final Four recently, and the night thing was in the recent past. We're in a long, long way since then. And that to me is the frustrating part of this.
I think you're right. I think it's going to get a lot worse.
I haven't seen, like, Trey Galloway was getting booed lustily tonight for some of the things that he was doing. I know that Nobody was excited or upset because Balo got ejected, which we'll talk about a whole bunch in just a little bit. But it's a disaster. Tonight was a disaster for the Hoosiers, and again, now you got to go on the road. You got 9 more games against Quad One teams, and I haven't seen anything from this team that tells me they're going to be able to bounce back.
Exactly. And I just until he's gone, it's not gonna be different.
And apathy,
Hey,
you
I
become
appreciate the show. I love listening to the after game stuff, especially when I'm riding back from Bloomington, like I am right now. I have to
excellent.
drive about almost 2 hours to Madison, Indiana,
Okay,
and tonight it just didn't seem worth the trip. You know what I mean?
sure, sure. There were people that were leaving with 5 minutes left in the first half. Students left at halftime, and a lot
But
didn't come back. So
I I stuck in there till 15 minutes to go. And then he said on the radio, it was like, Esther said, "Oh, we cut it down to 18 at 14." You know, if I'd have stayed a little longer, I guess I would have seen that.
yeah,
Um, but there's just nothing there, and the effort. You know, pay pay me that kind of money, and I'd be going after that ball a lot harder than those boys do.
I understand. And there are years for years I did the football show and it felt like I was a therapist at times. That I'm a therapist tonight, so people are allowed to absolutely vent and say what they have to say. I really appreciate the call, and thanks for listening on the drive home, and hopefully you'll continue to.
Definitely will.
All right,
You
thanks a lot.
have a better night. I know you can have a good night. Have a better night.
Take care. 812-393-2600 is the number. This is again on the chat. Woodson should sit Balo. Did Woodson take any personal responsibility? No. He said that he understands the heat of the battle, but there was nothing he could have done to stop it because he was on the other end of the court. And he's looking at, he's hoping that Balo will be available against Ohio State this weekend, which I understand the concept of trying to defend your players and all that, but also Balo coming from the free throw line. Miles Rice reacting right away, that's one thing. Balo coming from the free throw line and kind of jumping over the top, shoving a guy from the blind side and then backing away, that was weak. It was just a dumb thing to do. And it's incredible to me. It's just incredible. 812-393-2600 is the number. We got another caller. Give me your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Ken Michael here, Southwest Florida. I've called in before. This is about my only hobby in life. I work. I got three little boys, and I don't do too much else. And I'm 36. I've been a fan for since I've been about 13. So it's about 23 years of following the Hoosiers and watching almost every game. And this is by far the worst game I've ever seen in those 23 years that I've been watching the game. The worst effort with from what we read, a top payroll. Lazy. I mean, so lazy. Balo is so lazy. I would be completely fine if he never played for Indiana again. They're ripping him on Twitter tonight because there's so many clips from the game of his laziness. It's just it's the end. It's only a matter of when is the official end. There's no way Woodson comes back from this.
Well, that's part of what I was kind of saying on Twitter as well. Is that it's once you lose the crowd, it's tough to get them back. And I mean, you get to the point where if your crowd is chanting for your job, when you could go on a huge winning streak, win a national championship, and there will be people who think that the team won, despite of you, not because of you. And once you lose the crowd, it's over. You're in bad shape. And we've seen a growing anger with this ball club, with this fan base that's dying for good basketball, and it just won't come. People are giving time, they're giving their treasure, they are giving, to the NIL fund to try to bring talent here. Indiana has one of the most robust NIL funds around, and this is the effort you get that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And especially you start to talk about fans who have been watching for a long time. They've been able to see, they know what good basketball looks like, and they know that this ain't it. And then you have the younger people who are going into the workforce, don't have a ton of money, but are given their money because they want to support their team. It is their only hobby right now, and that those resources aren't leading to any kind of joy. That's where all of those things come together to really make a rough situation. And this is a game that it's going to be tough for the noise ain't going away anytime soon. I'll say it that way.
Oh, it's over. And the question becomes, I mean, I think part of the reason it's not just the play on the court. I mean, that obviously is a big role of it, and it's like there's so many other factors. You've got the fact that this team is a team of mercenaries. Everybody knows that we've got a top five or 10 payroll, whatever, wherever it's at. There's so many little factors that play into the situation. And there's a good portion of the fan base knew we should have made a change last year. I think the best way I've heard it described is one of the Eric's guys that says, "Hey, do you got the person in the job that can get you to the highest standards?" In football, we got that person. Basketball, it's obvious. It's been obvious for a couple of years. We don't have that person. Honestly, Kurt Signetti is the worst thing that's ever happened to Mike Woodson and the best thing that's ever happened to Indiana basketball because it became obvious when you got the right guy, things can change immediately. And with Indiana's resources, somebody could come in here and turn this around this year quickly. I think the only question we're facing now, there's no way Jolson, there's no way they bring him back. It's too late. The question is, does it happen sooner than the
Yeah, to me, I know that there are a lot of fans that are calling for that, that are asking for that. I would be really surprised if that's something that they did mid-season. That's just not something that really IU has done before when it comes to this kind of situation. And then there's also the question of if you would make a move like that, who is there to take over that's going to make things better? Or it could be just a cosmetic move. I don't expect that to happen, but certainly, there's a lot of work to be done. Mike Woodson, and you'll be able to hear it in just a couple of seconds here. Um, just talking about we have to get back to playing Indiana basketball, which I feel like a lot of people haven't really seen Indiana basketball lately. And you talk about the mercenary, you use the word mercenary there. That's somewhat college basketball at this point, but that doesn't change the fact that you have 7 new guys on the team, just like last year there were so many new faces. Hey man, it's more than halfway through the season. You got to turn in a performance, and especially coming off a 25-point loss like this, you got to show up, and that's not something that the Hoosiers did at all. And a lot of frustrated people out there, and it's like I said, the noise is not going to go away.
Oh, and I don't think it's the fact that it's even just the fact that they're mercenaries. It's the effort you see from Bala. It's that um, Carlisle has just not been good, which is just mind-boggling thing to have. Rice has shown some flashes. Good, he's an Indiana guy. He's kind of the one guy that's had him for most of the year. So is Rice for the most part, but it just I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's too far gone. The only question now is, does it last to the end of the year? Mhm. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words.
Yeah, I understand. Well, I appreciate the call, and I appreciate you taking the time. And if you want an explanation from the man's mouth, I'm going to give you Mike Woodson here in just a second. So appreciate the call. And even if you give up on the team here and where the future is, I hope you don't give up on the show.
Well, never can. The crazier the season gets, the more likely I am to call.
All right.
The
Well,
worse
again,
they play, the more likely you are to hear from me.
I am a therapist at this point for IU basketball. So thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. 812-393-2600 is the number. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and let you hear from Mike Woodson and his explanation of what happened tonight at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. There's some eyebrow raisers, to say the least. So here's Mike Woodson during his post-game press conference.
Mike, I know you don't share specifics a lot of what you say in locker rooms, but after a first half like that, just what do you say to a team to try and pick them back up, try and just kind of keep guys together, if nothing else?
Long season, man. I mean, you can't throw in the towel. We didn't play well the first half, but we were awful. And I thought we came out the second half and we competed and played a lot better, but the damage was already done in the first half. You got to give Illinois a lot of credit, their coaching staff. They played great.
I'm going to stop right there and jump in because I was expecting him to say, I thought we played much better in the second half. And to me, when you go into halftime down 28, the fact that you came back and you played better in the second half and actually won the second half by 3 points is absolutely irrelevant. It's absolutely irrelevant. And I have a real problem with that kind of attitude that at least we came back and we played better. Why? Why are you trying to focus on any kind of positives right there? It doesn't make sense to me. What would his head coach have said after a loss like this? Back to Mike Woodson.
Yeah, Coach. Big picture. I mean, you guys are 1-5 in quad one games. I think it's 15-34 in quad one games over the last 3+ years. What do you see as the problem? You guys not competing with consistency against the better opponents?
Well, I mean, we've had some good games against big-time opponents over the 3 years. You know, the record doesn't indicate that. It's tough, you know what I mean, when you prepare and you work, because we work in practice, we do all the things that you're supposed to do going into the game, and guys just didn't step up tonight, and they didn't step up in the Iowa game. I can't go back to past years. Coach was staring me in the face right now, and we just got to continue to work. I mean, still a long season. Hopefully we'll get Malik back soon. He's a big piece to what we do. And we could get guys back playing the way I expect us to play.
Yeah, Mike, the fans were very vocal tonight about kind of their disappointment, especially in the first half. What would you kind of tell them to reassure them about sort of the direction of this team?
Well, again, I love our fans and I respect our fans, but it's up to me to get our players to play at a high level, and that's my job, and I'm going to continue to work in that area and hope that our fans will stay in there and hang in there with us.
Todd and then Tom.
Mike, in your long tenure as a coach, I'm over here. Sorry. When you have younger guys who are trying to figure things out, especially after 2 bad games like this, what's your approach with them, and what do you feel like you need to do some soul searching of your own?
Well, again, you got to continue to work, and I got to make some changes. I mean, we haven't been getting off to a good start in terms of who we've been starting, and sure, we do miss Malik. Malik is a big piece to the puzzle, but I gotta put guys in there that I think that's going to get us off to a good start and see if we can maintain it over a 40-minute ball game. We can't let 2 games, and these were embarrassing games for us, determine our season. We still got a long way to go, a lot of Big Ten game left, and I just got to get us better prepared and ready to play.
But Mike, how do you explain 60? I mean, in the 125-year history of Indiana basketball, that's never happened before. How do you explain that?
I wish I knew. I thought we played better the second half. They scored, 34 points the second half, but 60 points is just way too many. I just thought our defense and our intensity just wasn't there, and they exploited it.
Hey, Mike, over here on your left, I got two questions for you, okay? First one is, what happened with Umar Ballo at the end, and what are you going to do about that?
Well, I mean, there's not a whole lot I can do, until I go back and review it, and I'm sure the commissioner and everybody will take a look at what happened and make a decision on what they plan on doing. I just hope Ballo's with us our next game as we travel over to Ohio.
Mike, that raises the question of accountability. You got a player doing what he did, and you're actually hoping he can play the next game. And
Well, I mean, again,
what's going on here?
well, they're taking up for each other. I get that. In the heat of the battle, anything is liable to happen. I don't condone players pushing players or, their player got into our player's face. I mean, it went back and forth. We had two guys pushing and shoving. I don't condone that by any means, but in the heat of the battle, I'm not there right there doing the situation where I can stop it. And sometimes things get out of hand and they happen. And, Ballo and I will sit and talk, and along with Miles, because he was assessed the technical too, and see where we go from there.
Mike, to have this performance after the way the Iowa game went on Saturday, just what did you see from the team's response to that game on Saturday, and what needs to change coming out of this game?
Well, again, I mean, we can't let this be a snowball effect. Like I said, we got a long way to go in this Big Ten. And do I think we're good enough to win? Yeah, I do. I just got to get us to believe that and keep pushing these guys in the right direction.
I want to say, Mike, this is a roster in October you said was I think, most talented you've had here. Is there a reason you can look at for just why it hasn't really clicked yet?
Well, again, I mean, you miss your leading scorer the last 5-6 games. I mean, that doesn't help. But again, I've always said, we won games without Malik. Was next man up, and these last 2 games we haven't fared well without him. So hopefully we'll get him back soon, and I can get guys playing back at a high level so we can get back on the winning track.
812-393-2600 is the number. I'm joined now by Peegs.com's Trevor Andershock. And Trevor, that's a shit show, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if I've seen a worse performance, especially in that first half, ever. I mean, with everything this game meant, after getting embarrassed in Iowa, and you come out and perform like that in the first half, I thought that was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from Indiana program.
What bothered you the most about that post-game press conference? The interesting thing is, I know Anthony Leal, which we haven't run this on here. Anthony Leal said a couple of times he didn't think they started slow. It was like 10-8 at the under 16.
Yeah.
To me, that's not what that's about. It's not about that the slow start.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't maybe a slow start, but boy, they never got out of first gear the whole time. And I don't want to put that on Anthony because he's not media trained and all that.
Right.
But when you hear Mike Woodson talk about this stuff, there wasn't a whole lot of it was, we got to get him back to playing at a high level. We get back at a high level. When have we seen them play at a high level?
Yeah, I mean, the only good thing is Mike Woodson did actually call this game and last game embarrassing losses.
Right.
That's finally one
Accurate.
small step in the right direction. But like you said, there was not much acceptance of blame there, saying that they've had some quality games in the past and competitive here and there, and they're working in the right direction and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty poor, but Luke Goody did say they are just not tough enough, especially early in the game, and are not following the game plan. I believe it's more toughness than actually following the game plan. There's obviously there's an effort issue for IU, and it's not like they're slacking off, but a half step slow is too much.
Sure.
Like that is how you get beat by 30 is a half
Right.
step on every play. And that's basically adding up in these not competitive because they're getting blown out, but in these Big Ten games, in these quad one games. And that's why they haven't been competitive. They're a step slow and just keep trying to react to every situation instead of anticipating it and beating the opponent to the spot. You just don't see IU ever do that right now.
This crowd got spicy tonight, and people were leaving in the first half.
Yeah.
There were a huge number of boos for players at a level that I haven't heard before.
Yeah.
That's kind of where the frustration level is with this ball club.
Yeah, it was right away. I was right in front of the student section. The student section was very vocal about booing, especially players. I thought that was a little shocking. They were booing after missed shots
Right.
and things like that. I thought that was a little bit too far just for individual plays and stuff like that to boo after each one. I thought that was a bit much. But yeah, these fans were fed up from the get-go, and they would let it be known. I thought the student section leaving at halftime, obviously they weren't coming back, so
Right.
they had every right to leave. But I thought that was a big sign of where this program sits right now, where first game back of 2025 for the students, and they decide to leave 20 minutes into it.
Yeah. You got the leaf blower over here. The guy's cleaning up the popcorn. You should have done that midway through the second half. He could have gotten the job done early. This team, you look at how they lost. They give up 60 points in the first half, which is, the hell, Indiana could. Think about it this way. If Illinois doesn't score a single point in the second half, Indiana wins by 9.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we're at. It's just the effort that we saw. So many offensive rebounds went uncontested. Guys not closing out on threes over and over and over again. I mean, where do you go from here?
And just to point that out, I was absolutely shocked how Illinois dominated the offensive glass. Illinois is not a team that prioritizes hitting the offensive glass. For them to get 10 in the first half was ridiculous. I mean, either they saw something on the scouting report and decided to do it this game, but I think it was just them being in the right position and being more competitive and being tougher than IU leading to those. So that's the big shock of it all for me. Like, how do you get beat that badly in rebounding when you're a pretty big team, even without Malik Renew? You have Ballo in there. You still start Luke Goody and Mbako. So you have the size to rebound. And Illinois is getting every offensive rebound they want. I thought that really just sealed the game and really showed how different these two teams are and where they're at in the season right now.
Rebounding is always about will,
Yeah.
about want to,
Yeah.
and Indiana didn't want to rebound tonight.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And Malik Renew, let's talk about him. He's been out of the lineup, but let's face it, Trevor, Malik Renew is not a 25-point difference. He's not a 30-point difference for a player. So whether Renew's here or not, it's not going to fix the effort of everybody else.
Yeah.
And so to me, and now you got to go on the road for 2 straight, more quad 1 teams coming up. Mentally, we just haven't seen this team be able to come back.
Yeah, and these are quick turnarounds.
Yes.
So they're coming one after another right now. And when you're trying to get your head above water like IU is at this moment, you are really fighting for every single breath and you're trying to improve yourself. I mean, this is a very steep hill to climb just to get back to, a 500 mark in the Big Ten in a few games when they just keep playing quad 1 opponent after quad 1 opponent. I just don't see how they get their footing at any point during this run right now.
Well, Mike Woodson also has talked about how his team, he felt, played better in the second half. To me, Illinois missed some shots that were open and had opportunities. This could have been way worse.
Yeah, I mean, IU played better to start the half.
Right.
And it took Illinois a while to finally figure out, all right, we do have to play another 20 minutes. We might as well play well again. And they did that and ended up outscoring IU in the second half anyway. So, yeah, that was kind of all for naught there. If IU knocks down a couple threes during that 10-0 stretch, you might put a little bit more game pressure on Illinois and you might have a ball game, but they just could not make a shot either. And Illinois does a great job of taking away threes. That's their main thing on the defensive end. And obviously they did that tonight. On the opposite end, IU knew Illinois was a team that shot a ton of threes, even more than Iowa, and shot them well. And you let them come out and bury, 10 threes within the first 25 minutes of the game. Like, I just don't get how these scouting report errors, these top line scouting report details are getting overlooked from the tip. These aren't breakdowns later in the game where you forget something. This is right away in games, and they just are not doing it.
You have to close out too.
Yeah.
A guy's open, at least go at him.
Yeah.
Try to distract him a little bit instead of just watching. And we saw way too much of that.
Oh, yeah.
Last
Absolutely.
question for you. How do you think Mike Woodson's head coach would have reacted to a game like this?
I don't know if they would have a locker room anymore. That's
Oh.
for sure.
Yeah, look,
There would be no practice uniform.
they lost by 50 once against in the 90s,
Yeah.
in the mid 90s, which might be before your time, but it is you just can't imagine it would be like, well, we'll just have to get back to playing our way and all that.
Have
I
we played-
just
we
I
played
am
well in
I am
stretches.
beyond words at this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where the real kind of questioning of the program comes in too. Like when you have a guy at the top who doesn't seem that upset about these blowouts, blowout after blowout after blowout, and he does not seem like it's really, life or death for him like it would be for a Bobby Knight or pretty much any other coach at this
College
level.
coach.
Yeah.
Think about how many of these games as an NBA coach, because at the NBA level, these are normal.
Yeah. And
That's something that's gone through my mind.
and being just over 500 in the NBA is pretty good.
Yeah.
You have to be, 70, 80% in college to be a good team.
Yes.
You can't just break even.
Exactly. Well, they'll get back at it Friday in Columbus. Then it's, I think, the Tuesday after
Yeah,
in
Tuesday.
Evanston.
Yep.
A lot of IU fans up in Chicago. I've already seen a lot of IU fans saying we're going to sit out this trip to Welsh Ryan, and that's where we're at, Trevor. So
Yeah, the next few weeks are going to be very interesting to see how the fans react to each game and to see if IU can actually get some switch to click and turn this around.
Yeah.
I doubt it at this point, but it is possible. They have the talent. We've been talking about it all year. They have the talent to do it. Can they find it somewhere?
yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Ken.
Thanks a lot. 812-393-2600 is the number. We actually have a caller that's ready to come on as well to talk. So, caller, if you give me your name, where you're from, and what you got.
My name's Kyle.
Hi, Kyle. How are you doing?
I would be doing a lot better if I didn't live in Illinois and know I have to go to work tomorrow and I'm going to get a lot of crap from my coworkers.
Yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen for sure.
So I think the one thing that's really has stood out to me, you look at a team like Illinois and Brad Underwood and his tenure there. I mean, Brad Underwood got off to a rough start at Illinois. Like his first couple of years were not good. And, he played that over aggressive style defense that didn't go over so well, but he adjusted. Like, he realized that his style wasn't working and he adapted and put things up and he's a really successful coach in the Big Ten system. And I think that's one of the most disappointing things about Mike Woodson is in the 4 years he's been here, we really are running the same lack of offense that we run very much. Hey, let's get to our big, a lot of one-on-one ISO ball. And the first is Tracy Davis was better than Khalil Ware with a ball. And we're still running an offense as if we have, that type of down low. And it's just not working. And then just the last thing, just really the overall effort. I don't like IU's scheme. I don't think we run a modern scheme offensively or defensively. But even if we're running the worst team in all of basketball, give up 50 points. That just comes down to effort. And if there is ever an opportunity to pull the old school Bob Knight, pulling 5 guys off the court, and I'm putting 5 walk-ons in the game, just to send a message at that point that this isn't going to be tolerated. I mean, that was the game to do it. But, we gave really poor effort in the first half. Second, what does he do? He rolls out the exact 5 guys gave that extra.
That's exactly what I said, coming out of halftime. For the life of me, I cannot imagine why the 5 starters were the ones that stepped on the floor to start the second half. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't show any kind of accountability. It doesn't show, anything. that, you know what, you might have your five best guys, but your five best guys, if Indiana had trotted out, all bench guys and some walk-ons, these fans around here would have absolutely understood what was going on. And yet that wasn't what we saw.
Absolutely. I mean, well, he had plenty of games and all of our blowouts this year to send a message to the team. And, lot of people smarter than me. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the call. I thank you so much. And, this is going to be an interesting rest of the season as people continue to get, frustrated with all this. 812-393-2600 is the number on the chat. Philip says Balo should get suspended and Rice could get a punishment. Um, I'm really bothered by the Balo thing. Look, I understand, stepping up and protecting your teammate and sticking up for him. I get that. It's the running from the free throw line and kind of jumping over a pile to shove a guy that I thought was ridiculous. Rice was in the moment. He's sticking up for him. Balo coming in there, it was frustration, and it was something that you could see coming. I mean, even the interaction between Goody and Illinois, that was a very physical interaction all game because of the fact Goody used to play for Illinois, and so yeah, you're going to have that. I kept waiting for that to turn into something, and the way Goody and the Illinois player got into it, that made sense to me. But Balo running in from the free throw line, shoving a guy, and then kind of backing up, boy, can't like that. Not my favorite. Some of the individual performances in this game, Balo was the leading scorer, 16 points, and 15 rebounds, so that was fine. 7 of 11 from shooting from the floor. But when you get whipped by 25 points, it doesn't make a difference. You had Miles Rice, 12 points on 4 of 10 shooting. Did not attempt a three-pointer on the day. Had 5 turnovers on the night, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 turnovers. He was -4 on the night. Luke Goody, 13 points on 5 of 9 shooting. He had 1 rebound and fouled out in 26 minutes. Trey Galloway, 10 points on 3 of 11 shooting. And it's really surprising to find out that he had 5 assists because Trey really had a rough game. He had a rough game in this one. 2 turnovers, -14. He really struggled at times, and he's the one that got a whole bunch of boos. And, it wasn't just for missed shots. I think it was how the shots were taken, too. Mackenzie Mbako, 4 points on 1 of 10 shooting. He is in a slump. Mentally, he seems to be a mess. 19 minutes, gets 4 points. Off the bench, the Hoosiers have 14 points off the bench. You get 6 from Anthony Leal. You get Bryson Tucker, plays 17 minutes, is -20 in that time. Canyon Carlisle continues to struggle, 2 points on 1 of 6 shooting, missed both of his 3-point attempts. Had 2 assists, but was -22 in 21 minutes. Ja'Kai Newton played a couple of minutes. Langdon Hatton had just a couple of minutes, 6 minutes. The Hoosiers on the night shoot 38.5%, 4 of 18 from 3. He did convert 15 of their 18 free throws, so that was nice right there. But that 3-point shooting is a huge problem. And look, you have a team that gets out rebounded at home, folks, 51-37. Rebounding is about effort. It's about want to. They get out rebounded on the offensive glass 16-8. And you lose 94-69. You lose by 25 points. Second straight game they've lost by 25 points. And you're talking about a team that had just 11 turnovers on the night. And it's not like Illinois shot the lights out. They were 40% for the game, but they had 75 shots. They went to the free throw line. They were quicker to balls. They drew fouls. It was a mess of a night. 812-393-2600. Ty on the chat says, I still think we can make a run, but man, I'm sick of the effort. And that's the question, is would they be able to go ahead and get back to playing with any kind of effort, is the light going to come on? And with back-to-back losses like this, and then you got to go on the road, it was rough. It's rough, and so are you all of a sudden going to see a hair on fire effort? Because that hasn't really been the case under Mike Woodson to this point. And Ty also says on the chat, I'm sick of my Purdue friends rubbing this in. Again, I feel bad for the caller who doesn't have has to go to work, and that's certainly a challenge for him. And Ty also says on the chat, what makes the state of our program even worse is the fact that Purdue is thriving, and there's no arguing with that. Purdue's doing fine, and Indiana has been a mess. And I'll give you a little preview on tomorrow on Peegs.com. I put together a feature looking at some of the margins that Indiana has had when it comes to losing. If you think that it feels like Indiana's getting blown out um, more often, it's because they are. And you'll see the numbers. Be sure to head to Peegs.com tomorrow to find out those numbers because it really is it's jaw dropping. It really is. I went back and I looked at all the seasons dating back to the start of the 1971-72 seasons, and that's Bob Knight's first year, and ran all the way down of what the results, the margins of victory and defeat were for every single game. And let's just say they are eye-opening. It's easier to lose big now thanks to a three-point shot than it was prior to 1983 when the three-point shot came to college basketball. But it's a challenge because this is a team that in the past 7.5 years has really been rough. Is really rough. 812-393-2600. I'll keep the lines open for just a couple of more minutes. Z Paulson on the chat says, am I the only fan that still has faith? It's tough to have faith right now, and you better lean on that faith real hard because this is a team that, they're 13-5, so it's not like they have a terrible record, but all of those losses have been big losses. Every single one of them. You got 5 losses this season is the number. 5 losses, and of those 5 losses, you have defeats of, 28, 16, 17, 25, and 25. Indiana hasn't lost a game by, less than 16 points. So it's not like they're losing some tight ones. They're competitive. When they lose, they get their ass kicked. Plain and simple. So, yeah. No, Paul Z. Paulson does the rosary every night, so I apologize for my language. A little salty. Todd says Purdue's going to kill us twice this year, and they may well do that. I also think it's interesting. A guy on Twitter tweeted at me today. The mistake was the arbitrary, asinine idea that despite what we all see with no progress, if you gave Archie 4 years, you had to give Woodson 4 years because, well, reasons. IU basketball is a program of mistakes. I will say this much. I understand that argument completely. And, if they would have let Woodson go before, at the end of last season, I would have understood that too. They decided to give him one more year. It is, a choice that was made. Part of it is, I'm sure, it's speculation on my part, but I feel good about the fact that it is, he's a former player. He did give, a lot of his heart and soul to this program. But the fact that the results aren't there and their embarrassing losses are stacking, it's really tough. The same guy on Twitter had he tweeted at me a quote from last year where I don't know if this is the exact quote. He has it in quotes, but I remember this being being something that he said or words to this effect, where there should never be any questions about my job based on what I've done here since I arrived at Indiana. I've done my job. I remember that comment, and it's good that he um, didn't go with anything like that tonight, because that would have I'd have made the microphones pop with rolling my eyes at that kind of stuff. Again, Penn State holds the record with the opponent scoring with 102 points. That happened in triple overtime in 2007. Next is Ohio State with 93 in 2009. Well, that was beat tonight. 94 points in regulation is the most ever scored at Simon Scott Assembly Hall since it opened in the 71-72 season. Um, and, look, in 125 years of Indiana basketball, no one scored 60 points and a half. And I mentioned this with Trevor, just the idea that, Mike Woodson doesn't tend to seem very phased about blowout losses. And I've wondered about that NBA experience, where in the NBA, if you lose by a bunch, it doesn't seem to really impact people because of the fact that it happens all the time and there's lots of games and you can get back to it. There isn't a ton of embarrassment or anything that goes along with that. College is different. College is different, and these embarrassing losses stack. At least he did use the word embarrassing, but not a lot of what I heard has me believing that he's going to go in spit and fire and being able to really change the direction of this team. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that this is a learning experience. And now, after game 18 of the season, this Hoosier team is going to have the light come on. Malik Renew will come back, and they'll all of a sudden they'll spend the time that they have away from Simon Scott Assembly Hall, be able to be focused. I thought it was interesting. Luke Goody on during his post game press conference, he said, for all the fans that are negative and against us, I hope they stay there when we turn this thing around, saying don't be fair weather fans. Look, I know you fans are frustrated. They're frustrated. They're sick and tired of this. They're sick and tired of year over year over year over year this program not living up to its standards that it had set. So I understand from a player standpoint why you feel that way, but this is not Indiana basketball. It's not high level Indiana basketball that you hear Mike Woodson talk about. I think that is really something. It's really something. Last call, 812-393-2600. Just give it a few more minutes. Appreciate everybody joining me tonight. I know it's a little bit later on a Tuesday night, and it's frustrating. I just want to see a hell of a lot better basketball from this program. There's too many resources, too much talent, too much goes into this program to turn in back-to-back 25-point losses that include a near complete lack of effort. To lay an egg in front of a home crowd here, there was a time when teams truly feared coming to Assembly Hall, and the fans and it was seen as a place that teams simply could not win. Indiana would lose a game or two or three at home. That mystique can't exist anymore for teams, simply because Indiana's lack of success over the years. I knew Indiana was going to have a tough one in this one after Illinois lost at home to USC, because USC didn't impress me when they were here. And for them to go to Champaign and get the victory and then be able to bounce back and come here, I knew they would be focused going into this. I hoped Indiana was going to be focused after losing big at Iowa, that they were going to rebound. And given what we've seen, that ability to do that next time Indiana goes on the road, which will just be Friday at Ohio State, I'll be surprised if it comes along, and they really pull it together. And hope I'm wrong. I'm an IU alum. I hope I'm wrong. I want to see good basketball. I want to see this program do well. I want to see them win and have Assembly Hall be what it was when I was in school and when I was younger. That's what I desperately want. And, for tonight, to not be able to see, to have this crowd chanting about firing the head coach and booing players and not being on their side, but understanding where that comes. I get it. I absolutely get it. Little preview of that story about the wins and losses and the margins. Bob Knight, in his first 5 years as a head coach, lost by double digits just 3 times and never more than 15 points. Mike Davis didn't lose by 15 points until year 3 of his tenure. Crean lost by double digits a lot, 71 times in his time. 42 of them came in the first 3 years. Archie Miller lost 26 times by 10-plus points in his 4 years at IU. Tonight was Mike Woodson's 27th double-digit loss. Just get a sense of what that feature is going to be, on Peegs.com. So please check it out tomorrow. We have another show on Friday night after the IU battle against Ohio State. I hope it's a battle. It'll be really interesting. Josh on the chat says, "Thank you, Ken, for being a therapist for all tonight." That's what I'm here for. Try to help you guys. Appreciate all the kind words. This was a disaster. From the 60-point first half to the awful 3-point shooting, to the lack of effort, to the lack of rebounding, to a scuffle that you had a player overreact to, and then do it in such a weak fashion, it bothers me. But here we are, bothered by the post-game press conferences, all of it that goes into it. But it's Simon Scott Assembly Hall, 94-69 is your final. Illinois scores the victory. Indiana falls to 13-5 overall, 4-3 in the Big Ten. We'll see where we go from here, and I will be here taking and playing the role of therapist anytime you guys need it after one of these games this season. Appreciate it. This will be an interesting couple of weeks that we got coming up here, especially if the Hoosiers don't get things worked out right. Well, that's all the time we have on the Peegs Postgame Live. I want to thank you for listening, and I want to remind you to visit Peegs.com for the very best in IU football and basketball coverage you're going to find anywhere. Nobody covers Hoosier recruiting better than Jeff Rabjohns, Matt Weaver, Trevor Andershock, and Jared Kelly. So come be a part of a thriving and exciting community at Peegs.com. Folks, you are not going to be disappointed. Folks, we're out of time, but for now, and for Jeff, Matt, Trevor, and Jared, I'm Ken Bykoff saying thanks for listening, everybody.